Hi, I'm a consummate wannabe, and the 12th Stephen King book that I've read is Needful Things. So as always, my book reviews are going to look at the plot, the characters, the themes, the ambiance, the writing, the emotions I felt, and just my general overall impressions of the book. As you know, Needful Things is the last Castle Rock novel in Stephen King's bibliography, and it is certainly the best one of the four. The overall plot was really good. Despite it being the longest book that I've read from Stephen King, I had no issues whatsoever reading it. I was not bored whatsoever. The idea that there's a new store, Needful Things, in Castle Rock, everyone's interested in it, everyone is curious about what's going on, and we get to meet Leland Gaunt right off the hop is fantastic. Throughout the story, we see that he has all these different tricks and pranks that he's trying to pull on people, framing other people to cause massive chaos. And every time someone walks into the store and he convinces them that they have to own this thing because of material want, because it's something that fills the void of their life, they end up paying the price. And it is fantastic because you see it. Stephen King does such a great job in the plot, connecting different characters from the town. You know, the red twine interlink multiple characters, and you can kind of see how the chaos is going to ensue. And while I think the book is a bit of a slow burn because Stephen King definitely takes his time to cause mayhem in Castle Rock, it is well worth it, as hopefully if you're watching this video, you will agree with me. Like I said, the pacing I had no issues with, and when we really see how Leland creates the havoc between Nettie Cobb and Wilma Jerzisk, and they have this bloody confrontation, and that was caused by the pranks from Hugh Priest and Brian Rusk, and it's just fantastic. I've never laughed and also gasped and just been like, just cheered on just the chaos and the destruction in the town that I've ever done in any single book. To me, spoiler alert here, I believe it's my favorite Stephen King novel to date. But that's not to say it's a perfect book. It's not a perfect book, but it was one hell of a ride. Once you get to the later chapters, specifically when everybody goes to Leland's store, we really see chaos ensue. Chapter 17 is probably my favorite chapter of the bunch, where we see you know, Alan Pangborn just seeing the absolute chaos that's being torn into this town between Lester Pratt beating up John LaPointe because of his because of he thought that he was cheating on his girlfriend, and you see the chaos between Norris Ridgwick and Danforth Keaton. That was just insane. And of course, Hugh Priest versus Henry Beaumont. Just everything coalesced together into a seamless story, and you see different vantage points. Absolutely amazing. That was my favorite chapter of the book. We can't forget the chaos between the Baptists and the Catholics over casino night that was introduced to us in the prologue and was developing, brewing, and growing over time. And then the absolute stink bombs that get planted and cause an absolute riot between these two factions, and the chaos and the fighting between them was absolutely insane. The language that he uses in this book is just hilarious and very a bit cartoonish at times, but I think it adds good charm to this book. And of course, when we see characters such as Ace Merrill team up with Danforth Keaton and they're planting TNT everywhere, the bridge explodes, buildings are exploding, the municipal building absolutely explodes while you have like a gun battle between two random people in the town. Just fantastic stuff, absolute chaos. Laughed all the way through it. And we finally get to the one plot point that I just wasn't a fan of. And I'm sure that there will be some polarization and division in this part. But the whole confrontation between Alan Pangborn and Leland Gaunt was anticlimactic, but also confusing when Pangborn is like tossing tools and he's tossing like that can of nuts and the snake, and he's got like shooting out light out of his wrist from the other toy that he has as a magician. That was really confusing, I'm not gonna lie, because there was kind of like a logical disconnect, and it was unrewarding. I'm not gonna say that like, oh, I read this whole thing and then at the end of it, like Stephen King flops, but I've taken a few days to try to mull over my thoughts on it. And my instant reaction was disappointment in terms of just like, and frustration. Like, dude, I think that's my biggest gripe. And I didn't like the ending of the book. It felt very abrupt, very similar to The Dark Half, where like you have the climax and you don't have any resolution. But it was very reminiscent of the abruptness of Dark Half, and like, for example, the abruptness ending of The Long Walk. And this really brings up the point of, is Stephen King good at writing endings? I've read 12 books now and I'm 50-50 on it. I'm not sure if Stephen King is good at writing endings. After spending a couple months now exclusively reading his books, a lot of the times I'm left frustrated and wanting more and just a bit more clarity. And in other times, for example, Joyland, Cujo, that sort of stuff, the endings are much better. And you do have more clarity and understanding of what happens. But with Needful Things, that's not necessarily what we get. I still don't know how much I should weigh the ending compared to the majority of the other book. Obviously, the ending is super important to the overall story, but how many marks should I take off because I don't like it is something that I'm still trying to come to grips with as a newer Stephen King reader, because I really, really love this book up until the end. And that's probably the most frustrating thing, because it's a fantastic book and the ending is not what I expected and I wasn't a fan of it. But anyway, I digress. In terms of characters, I think the character work in this book is fantastic. Now, I know a lot of people have said you don't need to read any of the other books necessarily to enjoy Needful Things, and that's fair, but I believe that they give context and a deeper appreciation to the town of Castle Rock and Alan Pangborn as a character. Because we saw Alan Pangborn in The Dark Half, we get more context of him having to fight George Stark. So throughout the story, when you see Leland Gaunt, actively, thinking of ways to avoid Alan Pangborn as a character, and avoid that confrontation, you realize that Alan Pangborn does have a bit of an ace in the hole in terms of he has fought and met another demon of some sort, because that is what I assume is Leland Gaunt. He's a demon from hell of some sort, and while George Stark is like evil incarnate, he's not necessarily a demon. He's fought something that is just out of this world. So with that appreciation, you know that Alan has a chance. In terms of Leland Gaunt, I love this character. The fact that he's got like this debonair look, but every time he touches people, they're revolted. And as the story develops, you get more understanding of who he is. Like you start understanding that, yeah, he's not human. He's like a demon. He's the devil. He's, you know, he has smoke coming out of his nose and ears. You know, that is really cool. He's able to hypnotize people and do things for, you know, based on his will. That is so cool. I believe right now he is my favorite villain of any of the 12 books that I've read so far. I think he's better than Barlow by far from Salem's Lot. He's better than Annie Wilkes. He's a fantastic character and so complex in terms of like his mannerisms, the way that he explains that he's lived for so long. I love that aspect of him, and very mysterious. You know, throughout the book, I'm wondering, what's his motive? What does he want to do? And at the end, it's really just chaos. He's just trying to collect people's souls and just take things away from people and just have fun. In terms of other characters, really fun to see Polly deal with her personal demons, with her deceased child, and her relationship with Alan Pangborn. I thought she is a much deeper character compared to Sarah from Salem's Lot. And I compare Salem's Lot to this book a lot because it has that world building energy, just like Needful Things. So I feel like those are better comparisons. Buster Danforth Keaton, interesting character. We get to see his gambling and his his backstory. I thought he was a more comprehensive villain. Ace Merrill as well as a comprehensive villain. I didn't read The Body, unfortunately, before hopping onto this book, but he's a fun character as well. I like that. He reminded me a bit of George Stark. He had that energy, that egotistical, like rough edge character, so he was good. And then you had just a bunch of smaller characters here and there that added to the overall vibe of the book, like all the Baptists and the Catholics and stuff. Nettie Cobb, you know, these characters. Brian Rusk was a very interesting character because I thought he was going to play a massive role in terms of driving the plot forward. He did. And when he met his untimely end, was just crazy. I didn't expect Stephen King to have a character just blow his head off at the age of 11. I gasped. I was just like, no way, man. Like, no way. This book shook me. So the character work, I think, was superb. Really, really liked it. And again, Alan Pangborn, really fun character, main protagonist, much better than Penn Mayers, and just better depth of a character. And you can see his good side, his faults, just great stuff. In terms of themes, the curse of materialism is probably the first one that comes to mind. You know, beware of that sort of stuff. But overall, again, I just went to this book for the plot. The themes were not necessarily present, and I don't feel like necessarily thinking about them all that much. So I won't weigh this at all really to the importance of this book. In terms of writing, dialogue, very standard stuff, nothing crazy. Again, there is like that whole part of like Stephen King, like when Nettie gives the lasagna to Polly, and then you see Stephen King saying, and she'll never see her alive again. You know, I don't like spoilers like that. I wish it just like, you know, it is what it is, but it's a choice. It's fine. Not a big issue, but yeah, dialogue was great. And again, Leland Gaunt, I thought really drove the books, like interesting dialogue, the way that he speaks, his mannerisms, very good stuff. So emotions, man, I felt so much in this book. I laughed a lot. I gasped. I was frustrated at the ending, and I'm not necessarily sure that that was Stephen King's intention. I was just in shock of like the chaos in certain parts, and I was getting giddy, anticipating the chaos from all like the pranks that and the tricks that Leland was setting up. So the suspense was there, but it wasn't necessarily a scary suspense. It was more of like an anticipation of like, oh man, like I can't wait to read the next chapter to see like how his plan develops and eventually is carried out almost to perfection. So that was great. I thought the emotions that I felt in this book were just absolutely fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was such a fun read. My overall impressions, I think that this is my favorite book of his so far after 12 books. And my only gripe of it is the ending. And because of that, it's not a 5-star book. It cannot be a 5-star book in my opinion for my taste, because the ending left me a bit confused, frustrated, and disappointed with how immense and interesting and mysterious this Leland Gaunt character was, only to get like defeated by Alan Pangborn by essentially divine intervention. So in that part there, I'm not a fan of that trope, that cliche. I do not like that. But that being said, I laughed a lot. I was absolutely always interested in reading this book. It was really fun. There was never a point in this 250,000 word book that I wanted to stop reading and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a long one. Like, no, man, like this book, in my opinion, is an absolute must read for anyone. And I think it's better than Salem's Lot. I truly believe it's better than Salem's Lot. And although I think Salem's Lot's ending was much better, despite I still had some gripes on it, but less so. However, this one here, I felt the ending was weaker, but the overall delivery of the story was better. So, what am I going to rate this book? I'm going to put this as a 9 on 10, a 4.5-star book. 9 on 10 feels right. It loses a full mark, it loses a 1/2 star because of the ending. And I'm not sure if that's too much or too little, but 9 on 10 just feels right. Let me know what your opinions are on Needful Things, because I'm really curious to see what other people thought about this book, whether you liked it, whether you hated it, what did you rate it? And as always, if you have any book recommendations for me, I always will have things put on a list. As you know, I have so many other Stephen King novels to get through, but I'm always looking, and I'm interested to hear your opinions and thoughts on Stephen King's Needful Things. So, thank you very much. If you liked the video, give me a like. If you really, really liked the video, please consider subscribing. That would help me a lot and just would mean a lot to me. So, as always, Stephen King, forever.